Times are changing, and so should your strategy around money and building wealth. Now, I am not saying that our parents and the older generations got it all wrong. However, the reality is that there are so many things different about today than 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Online banking didn't exist 30 years ago. Those high yield savings accounts that we love so much weren't a thing until the 2000s. ETFs, exchange traded funds, were first created in the early 1990s. Cryptocurrency is only 15 years old, 1-5. And our parents probably would have never guessed that you could one day go to the coffee shop and buy a cappuccino without your wallet and just your phone. The shit is wild if you think about it. Can you think about living before the internet was here and all of these online financial products? All of that to say, in today's video, I am going to cover 5 outdated money tips that just don't work for us anymore. Us means anyone who is trying to stay on top of their finances and build wealth. It doesn't matter your age, because if you are living in today's world and you want to improve your finances, you gotta operate under today's conditions. On top of pointing out these outdated tips, I'll give you some guidance on how to approach these topics instead, so that you can have the best chance of success at building wealth. Real quick, for those new here, hello and welcome. My name is Lissa, and I am an accredited financial counselor and a personal finance expert who wants to see more women of color winning in finances and in life. To be clear, anyone is welcome here on my channel. Don't mistake my inclusion of a historically marginalized group with exclusion of everyone else. All right, let's hop to that list. The first outdated money tip that you should avoid is number 1, buy instead of a rent. There is a misconception that buying a home makes more sense than throwing away your money by renting. And this usually happens when people are only looking at 2 numbers side by side, a mortgage payment and a rent payment. Often I hear people say, you have to pay rent anyway, so you might as well pay a mortgage. I also always hear people refer to buying a home as, oh, that's a good investment. Now, real estate can definitely be a great investment. However, buying a home is actually not a successful investment 100% of the time. And I also want to point out that buying a home does not make you more successful, stable, or cooler than anyone else. At least not 100% of the time. Now, to be clear, buying a home is not a bad thing. Like I said, it can have the potential to be a great investment. It's actually how I've personally been able to make big capital gains, to pay less taxes, and to pay off all of my debts, including my student loan debt. So I don't want you to cross buying a home off of your list of goals if that's something that you want. I want to point out that the outdated advice in this case to buy instead of rent has more to do with making us all believe that there is a one-size-fits-all approach to home ownership. We, and I can speak for myself and maybe other millennials out there, we've been taught to associate home ownership and living in our home with success and stability. Now, this just isn't true if we can't afford it. You gotta keep in mind that what worked for our parents and grandparents might not work for us today. Wages have not kept up with inflation. The amount of student loan debt that a lot of us have to start out with in adulthood has increased over time, and various financial crises that we've been through have affected the real estate market and the financial markets. They've affected supply and demand, interest rates, and home prices in a different way than any other crisis decades ago. So for those of you who might feel like home ownership is miles away or even impossible, or maybe you just decided that it's not for you anymore, I want you to be easy on yourself. All of these things are normal things. Don't let anybody shame you for wanting to rent if that's what you decide to do. That said, here are 3 things that I would recommend if home ownership is a goal of yours. Number 1, set clear intentions. Are you buying a home to live in because it represents success to you and stability? Are you expecting to make a profit with it in the future through appreciation or maybe rental income? Do you yourself plan to live there for a couple of years or forever until the mortgage is paid off and until you die? Knowing your goals with the home is going to help you decide if and when it makes sense to buy. Another thing you should do, number 2, run the numbers. So there are a lot of pros and cons to home owning when compared to renting. You want to take all of these things into consideration if you're calculating whether or not it's a good financial investment. So some of the financial benefits include you'd be owning an asset that has equity in it. You'd also be owning an asset that can appreciate in value, so you would gain more equity. And there are a lot of tax write-offs associated with owning a home. Some cons to buying a home can include paying property taxes, paying insurance, paying interest on your mortgage, paying for repairs and maintenance, and not to mention your time and energy if you have to do the repairs and maintenance yourself. And the last mini tip I have, number 3, if you do want to be a homeowner and actually live in your own home, as with everything else, work to get your financial foundations in place. So that's the kind of stuff I talk about on my channel. So quick little plug, if you're not already subscribed, then please do join my little community of winners who are building wealth. Now, don't you just love how I always have lists inside of lists in my videos? We've only covered one of these 5 outdated money tips. Moving on to number 2, stay loyal to your job. This is so outdated. You are not married to your job. That's all I'm gonna say. Number 3. All right, I'm just kidding. Let's go back to number 2. Let's expand on this a little bit. I laugh at this one about being loyal to the same company because in a way, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. I stayed at the same company for 11 years. Now, I loved working there for most of those years, but even despite that, I still, in hindsight, feel like I was too damn loyal. I stayed there too long. Now, it was a dope ass company that paid me a decent amount of money. I worked at Google and YouTube for 11 years. I also can't begin to tell you all of the cool, crazy experiences that I got to be a part of when I worked there, beyond the employee benefits. Now, this video isn't me talking about my old 9-to-5. What I want to tell you is even though I spent so many years there and I was paid well, and most of those years were happy years, I stayed there too long. I ended up having a hard time moving up the ladder and getting promoted. I had a hard time making a case to work on the things I really wanted to work on. I truly believe that had I been open to taking on new roles or applying to jobs at other companies and expanding my areas of interest, I think I could have gotten paid twice as much at minimum. Not to mention, I ended up getting laid off. I was prepared for this because I wanted to leave, but most people don't have that luxury of being able to leave a job and having the right finances in place. So in terms of loyalty to a job being very outdated, do I think you should quit your job after 2 weeks of frustration and not giving a about your coworkers, your job, your role? I don't think you should do that, not if it's gonna derail your financial life and your general life outside of work. I do think there's an element of giving things a chance, seeing it through, because a job can provide you some security and stability. The part that I think is very outdated is to stay at your same company until retirement, or to stay at your company or even your industry if it's not serving you anymore. If you hate it, if you hate waking up in the morning to go to your job, then you might find some fulfillment in switching things up, whether that's a new job, a new company, a new position, or even just a completely different industry. Don't count out the things that are possible for you if you are not happy with your company. You don't gotta be loyal forever. You gotta take care of yourself first. Moving on, outdated tip number 3, avoid debt at all costs. What? Am I saying that debt is okay? Let me explain. So we do know that debt can have a bad rap. Debt can derail our financial lives, and paying interest on our debts can prevent us from making major progress in building wealth and doing other financial things in life. But the reason this tip of always avoid debt is outdated, in my opinion, is because of 2 primary reasons. 1, the way society is set up, it's unrealistic for some people to not take on debt at least once in their life. And 2, there are ways to strategize your use of debt in a way that is financially beneficial for you. The concept that I'm talking about here is using debt as leverage. Now, I want you to know there are some financial experts, for example, ones whose names rhyme with Rafe Damsey, who will tell you to never, ever, ever take on debt. But like, what do you do if you are broke, you didn't come from money, you have to get life-saving surgery, and it's not fully covered by insurance, so you gotta pay $3,000 out of pocket? Do you wait months or years to save up for that $3,000? No, you have to take on some form of debt or payment plan. Beyond medical, don't get me started with the cost of college tuition and getting an education. Out of control. Now, beyond those uncontrollable and unfortunate emergencies, using debt as leverage is something that wealthy people as well as businesses do. If you remember back in 2017, Jay-Z and Beyonce made headlines for taking on a mortgage on their $88 million property. They probably had their own reasons for doing so, but one of the major ones, if we had to guess, was they were probably able to lock in a relatively low interest rate, around 3.5%. What this meant was that they could put a lower down payment down, pay some interest on the house on that mortgage, and then use the rest of that money to invest in other things that would make a higher return than that 3.5% they are paying on the mortgage. So here is a new way that you can look at debt. Number one, first and foremost, absolutely work towards getting out of debt and staying out of it for now if it has been crippling for your financial progress, and especially if it affects you a lot mentally and emotionally. Number two, get your spending habits under control and the rest of your financial foundations in place. These are things like having an emergency fund, living within your means, and making sure you're paying all your bills on time. Then, if and when you are ready, you can start viewing debt differently and look at it as a means of leverage. The key is that if you are to use debt as leverage, you have to be investing your money in ways that have a high likelihood of outperforming that interest that you are going to pay on your debts. On to number four, an outdated money tip: always max out your 401k. So the key word here is always. You might be sensing a trend, but in personal finance, and especially the way I look at things, I think there are rarely ever any absolutes. Certain financial products, investments, and financial strategies wouldn't exist if they didn't work for at least one person. Now, the reason I think it's outdated to tell everyone to max out their 401k is that when people do this, it doesn't take into account their overall financial and life goals. So as a general rule of thumb, if you plan to be alive at retirement age, so sometime after age 59 and a half, then you should definitely contribute some amount of money to a retirement account, because then you'll be able to take advantage of some tax benefits. That means putting money into a retirement account will ensure that you pay less taxes either today or in the future. Another rule of thumb for your 401k is to contribute at least to get your employer match. Now, some people call this free money, but I see it more as an immediate and low risk return on your investment. In terms of maxing out your 401k not being the magic solution for everyone, I want to cover a couple of downsides to maxing out your 401k. So, if you are not in a good financial position right now, remember, when you are putting money into your 401k, you're essentially locking it up. There are penalties to withdraw that money from that retirement account before retirement age. If you were to do that, those penalties can wipe out some or all of your gains that you've made in that account, which will just defeat the whole purpose of using the account in the first place. Another downside to maxing out your 401k is if you only contribute to retirement accounts and you don't also invest in other places, then it's going to be hard to retire sooner than the age of 59 and a half. Now, I think times are changing with the FIRE movement, which is financial independence, retire early. There are people in general not wanting to wait until their 60s to retire. And there are people who want to take mini retirements and sabbaticals in life. People are starting to realize that it's just not normal to work for 45 years straight and then finally get to enjoy a break when you are in your 60s and beyond. Lastly, a downside with maxing out your 401k is you might be limited on what you can invest in within your 401k, depending on the one that you are offered. So rather than this blanket, outdated advice of telling everyone to max out their 401k, here's what I think you should do instead. If you're in a good financial position, definitely contribute to your 401k if you have one at your job to try to get your employer match. Whether or not you should go beyond that is going to depend on your overall goals. So I think you should do a goal setting exercise where you start to define your longer term career goals and financial goals. This is going to give you something to work towards. Do you want to retire early? Are there some big investments that you want to make outside of retirement? For example, buying real estate? Knowing the answers to these questions is going to help you decide how much money to lock into a retirement account and how much you should put elsewhere. Overall, if you're unsure how to do this and all of this sounds scary to you, then you might want to talk to a CFP, a certified financial planner. This is exactly what they help out with. CFPs help you align your overall life and financial goals with a plan for your money, including where you put it, such as retirement accounts or other vehicles. Now, as I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with maxing out your 401k or your retirement accounts if you're able to, and also if it aligns with your overall financial goals. I just think that generic advice saying everyone should do this and we should always be doing that, for the most part, is outdated, at least when it comes to 401ks. Finally, end of the list, we are on to outdated money tip number 5, and that is to avoid using credit cards. So again, there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to credit cards, but I do think it's outdated to tell someone to avoid them at all costs because credit cards are bad. As with many things in personal finance, credit cards are a tool. You can have a hammer and use it to smash your own mirror at your house, or you can use it to hang up a pretty painting. The problem with credit cards is that most people aren't taught how to use them to their advantage. A lot of us end up getting in cycles of credit card debt for a few reasons. We buy shit on credit cards with money that we don't have. We're forced to pay things with money that we don't have, whether that's basic necessities, medical costs, or other emergencies. And we simply don't know how to get out of the debt once we get in it. So that interest keeps getting added on and the debt starts to spiral out of control. So if you have any of these tendencies, then I agree with the advice that right now might not be a good time to use credit cards. You want to try to avoid them and generally get your finances in a better place, build better money habits and all of that stuff before you start trying to strategize how to use credit cards. But if you know how to use a credit card, meaning you only use it for money that you already have and you pay your card in full every month by the due date, then not only can you improve your credit score by using a credit card, but you can also take advantage of different credit card benefits and rewards. Let me give you an example in my own life. So once I learned how to properly use a credit card, I started to simply run all of my expenses through credit cards instead of using cash and instead of using a debit card wherever credit cards are accepted. I use the credit cards to earn points, and then I use those points to get gift cards. I try my best to use those gift cards as gifts, which means that my overall gift budget for getting my friends gifts on their birthdays or at Christmas, that whole budget can be reduced because now I'm just getting these free rewards through my credit card. For me personally, I even pay annual fees on some of my credit cards, like my American Express Delta Reserve card and my American Express Platinum card. This is not a sponsored video, I just really love these cards. But the way I've done it is I've worked out a system where all the rewards and benefits that I get from them, like accessing airport lounges, getting free flights, all of these things that I get out of the cards are way more valuable than the annual fees that I pay for them. So they end up paying for themselves and then some. But again, I am very intentional with it. So if you have bad spending habits and you're not in a position where you pay your credit cards in full, then I would not recommend this strategy for using credit cards. I would recommend, as a financial counselor and just as a friend even, to start with improving your spending habits. The reason I think it's an outdated tip is it's just silly to tell everyone to avoid credit cards when there is this whole system and world of getting benefits out of them where you can credit card hack and get a bunch of free things. So ultimately, it's all about approaching them with the right strategy. So outdated tips, don't listen to them. Learn other ways to approach these topics and always be open-minded to learning new things. All right, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.